Okay, hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining me. My name is Richard from the Seneca team, and we're going to look at using Seneca in conjunction with Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams today. And it's really nice using all these platforms together because individually they're obviously useful, these platforms, but when you combine them together, they are potentially really powerful, really impactful for your students, and hopefully making your lives a bit easier too. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute and run through a few things. It's going to be a bit of a demo of how everything works. I'm going to show everything from the very basics of what Seneca is and how that works to the same things in Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams. And there's obviously going to be an opportunity to ask lots and lots of questions, but you'll find on this Zoom call, unlike other Zoom calls, you won't be able to unmute yourself. So if you want to ask a question, please do, I do encourage you to use the chat feature on Zoom. So just get those questions coming in as and when you have them. And obviously, if there are any questions towards the end, what I'll do is I'll leave some time so I can come back and answer them as time goes on. So also, yes, so actually, let's just get straight in actually, and then we can get going, and you can, yeah, we can get going. You can learn how this all works. So you should all be able to see my screen now. If you can't, please do just let me know. But a few of the best things just to mention, first of all, about Seneca and just explain what it is and maybe how the difference is, what the difference is between something like Seneca and something like Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams is, then it's a good place to start. So Seneca is a homework and distance learning platform that students can use to study for anything they want to study for. And we offer 25 different subjects. And you as teachers can set assignments, track progress, and parents can also use it to engage in their child's learning as well. Now, the difference between Seneca and Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams is that with Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams, it's more of a messaging platform, both of them, okay? So that is where you can communicate with your students so that your students can see what you want them to do, but there's no actual content on there. So Seneca allows you to basically bring that content in, and there are nice integrations between Seneca and both Teams and Classroom to help you to do that. Now, to put back onto Seneca for a second, in terms of how it's been developed and the way it's been structured, is that our system is based on the latest cognitive science. So we've worked with a team of neuroscientists to basically understand how students learn most effectively, and also how students can make sure that they are learning as effectively as possible. Now, of course, we did this, and there's a lot of theory behind it, but we also want to make sure the theory is sound and the theory is, basically, but it works and has an impact on students. So I'll talk about that in a second as well. Now, also, everything on Seneca is automated. So in terms of marking and you seeing the work that your students do, what you can do is you can see nice bits of data. Students get instant feedback as well, which is also really important and really good for students' student development. And you can track progress through different assignments. Just you can track independent work as well, and you can also see sort of quite nice high-level overviews of what your students have been up to. On Seneca as well, the system is completely adaptive in the way it's called adaptive learning in technology speak, but for you'd know this as differentiation. So the differentiated work that we set automatically tailors to the individual student. So we will be able to pick up where students' strengths and weaknesses are, and we'll be able to tailor the content for the individual. So say you set the same topic for two students and you stood behind them and just watched what was going on, you'd see two very different sessions depending on how the students answer. So say this student is struggling with understanding the a certain area of the topic, we would keep that student on the area that they're struggling with. We'd give them more support, guidance, more questioning around that to help them develop their knowledge. But this student is flying, they're doing really well. They will be pushed on quicker onto the harder concepts, and they will be given more stretch to make sure that they are being challenged. Now, obviously, this is good for both of these students because, number one, it makes sure that they're learning as effectively as possible. And secondly, it helps to keep their engagement. So as you will know, pitching content at the right level is really important. And the system, Seneca, just automatically picks that up. Now, it's also worth mentioning that everything I'm going to talk about in this webinar is free to use. So there's absolutely no need for you to dip into any department or school level budgets to access anything I'm going to talk through today. There is a premium offer as well, but I won't talk about that in the scope of this session. We'll just focus on what you can get for free. So I mentioned this cognitive science and this working with neuroscientists to make sure we develop our platform as effectively as possible. And what we found was that when we did some research into what the impact of Seneca was, we completed a randomized controlled trial, and it just was with just over 1,100 pupils. And what we found was when we compared Seneca to other independent learning tools like revision guides, for example, we saw very similar pre-test results, as you can see, but when we compared it to the post-test results, you'll see that the scores for revision guides and the scores for Seneca were not even comparable. So the multiplier was 2.1, so it's over twice as effective in terms of helping students to learn that content through this study. And this study was peer-reviewed and published, so if you'd like to read about it, you can just do a quick Google search. If you just type impact Seneca, for example, you'll see the research article and you can have a look at it for yourself. But obviously, if you want to ask any questions, please do as well. Now, in terms of what's on Seneca, we have content right from Key Stage 2 right up to the end of A-levels. And everything on there is exam board specific at Key Stage 4 and 5. And at Key Stage 2 and 3, it's linked to the national curriculum. So that means basically whatever your student is studying in school, we'll be able to cover it on Seneca. And as I mentioned, we have 25 different subjects that are on offer. Currently have, these figures are a bit out of date, so currently about 4 million pupils, about 200,000 teachers, and about 45,000 parents. So the vast majority of those users are free and just getting benefit from our platform, using it for free. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you into Seneca first of all and show you how that process works and how that setup works. And then as I go through Seneca, I'm going to start to show you how that integrates with Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams. So when you first sign up for a teacher account, you'll be greeted with this screen. So if you haven't seen this before, you just literally click create a class. It's very straightforward. First thing you do is give it a class name, whatever it is you want to call it, and then you can create that class. And just to get set up, you've got these 4 stages. First of all, you've already done stage 1 just by naming the class. And the next stage is to add some courses to this class to make sure that your students know what your students know what you want them to study. If at any point you need some help during this process, you can just click get help, and there's a video there which will explain what you need to do. But we'll just go straight in and actually add a course. So I can click here. You can see I've got a search bar for courses here. I've also got some filters down the side here. So say I'm looking for I am a GCSE. I can choose from one of these subjects. Let's go for today. I'm GCSE history teacher, and I'm AQA exam board. So what you can see here is we have a number of different courses that I could add. Our history courses are split up by era, just because we know that different schools do different things, but you just click on them to select the ones you want. So I've just selected 6 courses there. And at the top here, I can then just go and add a course. And there you go. As soon as that, I've added those courses. Now, the next step is to make sure that you can add assignments to basically start to set work for your students. Now, these are assignments where you're saying to the students, I want you to go and do these sessions 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. And you can get help if you need it, or you can just go in and create an assignment. Now, you'll see here we've got 6 different courses. The ones I just added, you can click on any of those. So I choose this interwar years. And you can select the content that you want to set for your students just by selecting these boxes. It's important to say it's the same process for any subject, so there's nothing different here because it's history or anything like that. But you just select whatever it is you want. And if you want to preview them at any point, you can just click this preview button. But you can also do, see at the top here, we've got an estimated time for this assignment, so you get an idea of how long that might take your students. And when you're ready, you just click Assign and you give it a name. So whatever it is you want to call it. You set a start and an end date. Now the start and the end date is really useful if you're thinking about how to set assignments long into the future. So maybe you want to set a whole half term's worth of assignments in one go. You can do that just by changing this start date. And the assignment will only appear for the student after the start date has passed. But once I'm ready, I just click create, and that creates that very first assignment. Now you may have noticed at the moment I haven't added any students. You can see here I've got student 0. Haven't yet done anything there. Again, if I need help, I can get it. But the next stage is to go ahead and start to add some students so you can keep track of their progress and they can start doing some of the work you set. So if I invite some students, you've got a few different options. You can either share the joining link here. You can either send it via Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, or by email. So this is where this first integration starts to come in with Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one after the other, what they look, how it looks, and how it works, so you can see and understand that. So if I show you Google Classroom first, just click on that link. Simple as that. It takes you through to Google Classroom. You can choose the class you want to set it for, and then you choose the action. Now, if you're not familiar with Google Classroom, you have 4 different actions you can take. The only one, so you've got create assignment, ask a question, make an announcement, or create material. The only one that might need explaining is the create material one. And this is what you can use to basically upload resources to your class, for your class to access. So it might be things like, it might be that you're a science teacher, you want to upload a formula sheet. It might be a PDF of a text if you're an English teacher, or possibly like a source or something like that you want to upload in history. So anything you want your students to have access to from that class, you can create material. But what I'm going to do for this purpose, because at the moment I'm creating a class, I want to let my class know that the class has been set up on Seneca. I'm just going to make an announcement about that in that class and click go when I'm ready. So what you can see here is this link's being generated automatically for me, and this is the link that my students will need to click on when they want to join the class. So I can put a little message in here, something like click the link to access the Seneca class or something like that. And then I've got some options down the side here. I can choose just to set it for particular students in this class. I can also use this down arrow here, just maybe schedule that for later or save it as a draft or just post it straight away. But when I'm ready, I can just go in and click post, and away that goes there. Now Google Classroom always gives you the option to view that post afterwards, so you can always just check what it looks like. And this is probably a good time to show a bit of the functionality in Google Classroom before I go on to Microsoft Teams in a second. So when you post something on Google Classroom, it always goes into this stream, it's called. You'll see here, this is this link I've just posted. And the stream is basically like the message board of Google Classroom. So it's where all the communication happens. Your students can see this, you can communicate with them, they can communicate with you, they can add comments and things like that. And you'll see we've got a whole host of different things below of other things I've posted. And it's important to say whatever you see, your students see as well. So so you can imagine how that looks like for students. So what I'll do now is I'll move on to Microsoft Teams and show you how that process works. So again, don't forget, we're just inviting students here. This is the setup of the class, is how you add students to your class on Seneca. So I can click Microsoft Teams and I take that through, give it a second to load. And the difference with Microsoft Teams is it's split up into what are called teams and channels. So teams could be something like your team could be your department, say, or your year group if you're a year leader, and your channel might be a class within that team. So I know I've got a year 10 maths class set up here, so I can share something to that. Again, I can add a little custom message like click the link to join the class. And it's important to say students only need to do this bit once. They need to join the class once. Once they're in, they're in. But when you're ready, you just click share in the bottom corner. And again, that's shared that link to Microsoft Teams. So if I just show you what that looks like in Teams, you can see here, if I go into this year 10 maths group, you can see here at 16:15, I've just shared that link. And the same process would be if it was in Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams. I can just, the student would come in, they click on this link, and they get taken through to Seneca, and it just gives them a little message. A second. You've just joined class name 1, which is the name I gave that class earlier. And when you click continue as a student, it takes you through. You see these 6 history courses that I've added, and you also see that first assignment I've set for the students as well. So it's important to say that as students join your class, they'll automatically be added to the assignment that you've made. So the other important thing to say about Teams while I'm here is, again, whatever you see on Teams, your students also see. So when you post on here, this is what your students will see. Again, they can reply to you, they can have communications with you, and it's the equivalent of the stream in Google Classroom. It's just called posts in Microsoft Teams. So that's inviting students to your class. That's allowing students to join your class. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to move on to a class that actually has some students in it, because this next bit would make a whole lot more sense if that's the case. So you'll see here I've got 30 students in this class and 2 courses. I've got 1 teacher, so it's important to share that if you want to add another teacher to your class, maybe a co-teacher, or if you have another teacher that wants to have access to the data, like a head of department or an SLT member, you can just literally press add class, and then you can send them an email to invite them to your class. And once they click on the link in that email, they will be able to have access to the data. They'll be able to set assignments and all that stuff you'd be able to do. So we've invited some students, we've set that very first assignment, and hopefully your students then go away and start to do some work. Fingers crossed. But you obviously you're going to want to see that data as it comes in. And what you can do for that is, the first good place to look for it is in assignments. And this is where you have set an assignment and you want to see the data specific to those that assignment that you've set. So if I click on assignments here, you can see I've got upcoming assignments selected at the moment. I'm not sure if I have any. Oh yes, I've got 1 here, but I don't imagine anyone's done it. But if I go to a past assignment, just so I can show you what the data looks like. Let's go for this one. Actually, let's go for one with 30 students in. Okay, here you go, assignment name 1. There you go, so it's got 30 kids in there. And if I click on that, it will load up some nice data for you. The first thing you'll see at the top is that there is the course it's related to, the number of students that completed it, the number of students that completed it late, and also the number that didn't complete it. And you can see some averages here across the class as well. But if you scroll down, then what you can see is these sections that you've set. So if you hover over them, you can see the name. So understanding new words, 1.1.1. You can see how well your students have done. Nicely red, amber, green. So lots of green here, which is very good for this class. They've been done very well. You can also see the average for each student. You can see the status, which tells you whether it's late, on time, or not complete, sorry. So this timer just means it was completed late. And you can also select different types of data as well. So at the moment I've got best score selected, which kind of explains why there's so much green. But if I was to change to say most recent attempt, I'd expect to see a very different picture. So you see here we've got anything below 50% is a red, anything below 80%, when 80 to 50% is amber, and anything above 80 will give you a green response. So the different options for the different data I can see is most recent, best, worst, average, the number of attempts, and the total study time. And you can just select these, and if you say, you want to see worst score, just click on it and it will show you the data for that. Now, what you can also do is click on any of these headers and that will sort it for you. So here, sorting it from best to worst. You can see that roles done well in this section on exception words. If I click it again, I can also see who's not done so well, and yeah, think about what I can do to support those students. Now, when you're doing, when you see all this data, obviously you're then probably thinking, okay, you know, Lorena here has only got 1%. I need to support her. I need to do something to help her with this. And what we do is we allow you to, we've got a really good, quick way of setting work that is based on the data we have on students. So you see here, we've got Lorena. I'm going to want to set her a follow-up task to make sure she can do as well as possible. And we can use this smart reassign feature to do that. And that is at the top here. So if I click on smart reassign, what I can choose to do is set it for anyone who either didn't complete it or got less than 50% as their best score or got less than 80% as their best score. So if I just select these scores here, I can select as many or as few as I want. And when I click reassign, I just need to give it a name, whatever it is, and a start and an end date, just like before. And the system will automatically look at the data we have of these students and reset the work for them. So I click reassign. You can see that in just a few clicks, you've got a really tailored, assignment that you've set for your students. Now, again, you have the options to share this link if you want, or put it into Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams. So again, let me show you those processes again. So let's start with Google Classroom once more. And if you want to put it into Google Classroom, again, it's very straightforward. What we need to do is the same process as before, choose the class you want to set it for, and then choose the action. Now, you probably want to, in this occasion, set an assignment, because at the end of the day, this is an assignment you're setting. And when you click go, the options are just slightly different when you set an assignment. So I can give the assignment a name. I can also give some instructions. So something like click the link to access the homework. And then down the side here, again, I can just set it for some students if I want. I can set a due date. I can set a number of points if you're using the mark book in Google Classroom. And then I can also put it under a topic. Now, what I'll do is I'll leave the topic empty with no topic for the moment, and I'll just I'll explain what the topic does in a second. So if I do a drop down here, you can see again, you can schedule, save for later, assign it straight away, and away you go. If you just click assign, that makes that assignment for your students on Google Classroom, and you can view it right here. Now again, you'll see it opens up in the stream. So you see this assignment that I've just created at 1623. But the difference with an assignment is it will also go into the classwork section here. So this is where basically all of the classwork that you set for your students and any resources you upload or anything like that will come into here. And you remember I didn't set a topic on this assignment, and that means it's just popped up the top here. And again, I'm going to reiterate that whatever you see on this page, your students will also see it in the same way. So it's a really nice way to use topics, is to basically make sure that the information on this page is organized in some way. So you can see I've put some other assignments underneath particular topics, and you can do the same with the assignment you've just made. You just need to drag and drop, and it can go wherever you want. And that's to help you organize your classwork tab, but also for your students to have to have it organized for them as well. And if you want to create any new topics, very easy, just click this create button, and then you can just click topic and it makes a new topic for you. Now again, let me show you that same process of sharing assignments, but this time in Microsoft Teams. So if I click on Teams, again, it will take me through to the Microsoft Teams section. Again, I'm going to choose that Year 10 Maths group. Even though this is a history course, but we will ignore that. So again, little message, whatever it is you want to write. And then when you're ready, you just click share. And it just gives you that confirmation that it's been shared. And again, it comes through, if you see here, at 1625, you can see this link to share, link to access the assignment is popped up here, and the students can just click on it and it will take them through to the assignment. So as simple as that. You've then shared the assignment. You've learned how to reset the work. So you can see here this shorter assignment that I've set for my students, just 4 students who met that criteria that I set, and just the topics that they hadn't that would meet that criteria have been set for my students. So you'll see here just 2 topics where we've got Marie on one topic here, and then we've got 3 students on this topic here. So again, when a student goes back to this work and when they revisit this information, it won't be the same session, because if you remember what I said right at the beginning of this talk, it was about the idea that Seneca automatically adapts to the individual. So we will remember what the student did last time, and the session content will be adapted accordingly. So you can, yes, it will be a differentiated session for that student. So that's obviously when you set an assignment, students go away and do work. You're probably also thinking, what happens if a student just completes work outside an assignment? Because they can do that. They can choose any topic they want, and they can do it whenever they want. And what they can do for that is they can use the Insights tab. So if I click on the Insights tab, you'll see what this looks like. What you can do is just select the course, the metric you want to see from those same options before, so like most recent attempt, best score, worst score, etc. And then you can also see the date range, choose the date range you want to see data for. So at the moment we've got last 30 days, but we could also choose like last 24 hours, last week, last year, all time. And also there's a custom date range option as well. So if maybe you just want to see from the 1st of September till today, you can do that and see the data. Now, the last thing you need to do is just select what data you want to actually see. So I can go in and see this geography course. I can, a bit like when I was setting the assignments earlier, I can just tick all of these. I can also just select all at the top here. Let's go for that for now. And that selects all 150 sections. And when I click select, just give it a second to pull through all of that data. And you'll be able to see it in a minute. It might take a little moment just because it's pulling through 150 sections, but give it a second. There you go. All the data's come through, and you can see it again, nicely red, amber, green. And this is what your students have been doing independently. It's also what they've been doing in assignments as well. And you can just scroll through these sections just by using these arrows down the bottom here, so you can see exactly what it is your students struggled with. And you can also see the names of the sections just by hovering over them at the top here. So that's how to really drill down into data, get really, really specific data on specific topics. But you're probably going to want to have like a way of just having an overview if you don't want to go into this data every single day. And that's where the Students tab comes in. So if you click on Students, see here, we've got some basic stats for the date range that we've selected and the course we've selected. We can see the learning time, the average score, the number of sessions they completed, and the number of correct answers across for the student as a whole. So that's a good way. A lot of teachers use this to like incentivize learning, use this as like their leaderboard, if you like, so that they can help students and encourage them to complete work on Seneca. Now, I should have mentioned this in assignments, in Insights, and in Students, but I didn't. But wherever there is data on Seneca, you can have the option to download it to CSV. And what that will do is it will basically download a spreadsheet that will allow you to access the data, and you can then use it however you want. So that might be integrating with another Markbook, like Google Classroom, say, for example. You might want to integrate it with your Markbook there. You can just download the data and upload it to wherever, or use it in whatever way once it's in Excel. Now, do keep the questions coming in. If there are any questions on anything I've said, please use the chat. If anyone missed what I said at the beginning of the call, do start to ask questions away, and I will come and answer them in just a moment. There's a couple more things I want to share with you before I do that. The first one is a really useful feature that's in Microsoft Teams that you might be interested in. Unfortunately, it's not available in Google Classroom, but I think it's really useful for those of you who are using Teams. It's using custom tabs. So you'll see here I've got posts, files, wiki, which come as standard. And then I've also got some Seneca tabs here. So if I click on one of these Seneca tabs, you'll see that within Google Classroom, sorry, within Microsoft Teams, I have my Seneca there ready to go. So really, really useful to just keep everything all in one place. And what you can actually do is talk to your admin in school and get that there for all of your students and all of your teachers. So it's just there as standard. But it's really easy to add it yourself if you don't know how to do it. So you can just click plus at the top here, and that just opens up a new tab. And there's actually loads of juicy stuff in here. So you can add everything from your classic Microsoft products like your Words and your Excels and PowerPoint and stuff. But there's also a lot of third-party options as well that you can add. So it's a really useful tool if you're looking to customize your teams. But for the Seneca purposes, and to show you how it works, we can use just a website, and I can give it a name. I've already got quite a few Seneca tabs, so I'm just going to call it Seneca 5 or something. And I can just paste from any site on Seneca that I want to link to. That's what I want to open every time I click on that link. I'm just going to go for this app.senecalearning.com. Make sure you include the HTTPS bit in there as well. And you can choose to post about it in the channel as well if you wish. But I'm just going to save that and show you what that looks like. So my Seneca 5 is opened up here, and you can see here it's just opened up a new tab. And yeah, it's there and available to use, and it's all just handy to have there when you're setting your work and stuff like that. The very last thing I wanted to share with you is the parent accounts that we have as well. So a lot of schools don't know or don't make the best use out of these parent platforms. So we're really trying to help schools use these because there's so much research around that shows that parental engagement is a really important factor in improving student outcomes. So we want parents and schools to make the most out of this. And this is a free parent account that you can invite your parents to join, or sorry, your students' parents. Your parents can join as well if they want, but they might not want to. But they can basically come in here and they can see lots of nice data of their child. So actually, I'll just log into a different account, which will allow you to see what the data looks like. I'll just show you this. Change this to a parent. You'll see here you go. So here's an example. I've got a couple of children that are my fictitious children in this on this parent account, and the parents can see basically some basic learning times, some average scores that they've got, number of sessions they're completing, and the correct answers. Now, from your point of view as teachers, this is potentially really useful because it will save you that link of communication. It will help maybe ease up a bit of time, but also allows parents to have a way to really be involved in their child's education, which could potentially be really transformative. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to come back to you full screen. So there I am. If you haven't had a chance to ask your questions yet, please do get them in. But I can see there's a few people who have asked questions, so I'm just going to run through those. And yeah, do get those questions coming in if you have any more. So first question from Andy says, when I try to share an assignment, it only shows to share with email or share with Google Classroom. There's no Microsoft Teams option. Never mind, I reloaded it and it's appeared. Okay, well, I'm glad you still solved your own problem, Andy. So yeah, sometimes if you're on an old version of our app that hasn't been refreshed in a while or updated in a while, you may see an old version. You just need to refresh, and if you ever see a little update sign in the bottom corner, please do just click it, because then you'll get the latest version of all the different tools we offer. A question from Ms. Palmer says, is there any way to see the questions that they are set other than just start in the preview? So what you can do is, so the only way to do it at the moment, Ms. Palmer, is just start in the preview. So if you just click preview, you'll be able to go through. There's also the option at the top of your of your teacher account, just to click student platform. And if you click student platform there, you'll be able to try out the whole student experience if that's useful. Okay, question from Petra. She has a question about confidentiality, as student names will be on an outside app. Okay, so just to explain how our sort of GDPR processes work. So each user has access, owns their own data and has responsibility for their own data. So the way it works is data is only shared between users if there is permission given. So as a teacher, when you are inviting your student, you are seeking their permission. And if they want to, they can join your class and then you can see their data. But each student and teacher has responsibility for sharing that data initially. So there's no need for any data sharing agreements or anything like that with the school. And obviously, if at any time you as a user, you as a teacher, or any of your students don't want to be sharing those data anymore, they can just edit who has access to the data in the settings. So they have full control over who sees their data. So yeah, if you want to read anything about our GDPR compliance, what I'd do is I'd go into our help center, and if you just type in GDPR, you'll be able to read about how we've set up and how we've made sure we're compliant. Okay, question from Rebecca. It says, is there any way of importing marks / overall percentage into Google Classroom so we can use them within the markbook section? So at the moment, that's not something that happens automatically, unfortunately. I appreciate it would be really useful if that was something that could happen automatically, and it's something we'd like to do in the future. And that also goes for single sign-on as well. So that is where students will be able to sign into Seneca with their Microsoft or their Google accounts. But for the moment, none of those are an option. But what you can do, I believe, with getting your marks into the Markbook in Google Classroom is, do you remember I talked about downloading stuff to CSV? If you download to CSV and then upload as a file on Google Classroom, you'll be able to transfer the marks over. Question from Nat says, will this webinar be available as a video, please? So yes, of course. If you go onto our Seneca CPD YouTube channel, which I'll post a link in the chat in a second, then this exact recording will be shared there, and you'll be able to access it through there. I'll just post it now. There you go. So if you go on that account, you'll be able to watch it again if you missed anything, or if you want to share it with any colleagues as well, as they're available to use. Question from Dawn. Dawn's asking about BTEC Level 2 Tech Awards for Enterprise. So we don't currently cover those courses, and this will be the same answer for any course requests that are in the chat. But I will take on board and pass any requests onto the content team. It's really useful to know which courses people want that we don't have. Our aim eventually is to cover every single subject and every single qualification in the UK. We currently cover about 95% of the exams sat in the UK, so we've got good coverage already. But obviously we know that this doesn't hit some students for some subjects. So please do, please do keep those requests coming in, and we will do our best to offer that to everyone in due course. But unfortunately, I can't give a specific time on these courses because, as you can appreciate, they do take quite a long time to produce, and a lot of resources. A question from Starbuck says, do the tabs have to be set up individually, or can they be done as a class? So when you add the tab to a channel on Microsoft Teams, it will automatically add it to the whole, to everyone in that channel. So as long as you have permissions to do that, you might need, depending on how your teams are set up in your school, you might need to ask your IT team to do it for you. But once that's done, it should be there for the whole channel. Colette says, we've been using Seneca this half term, a few teething problems. I've created an assignment that put the relevant link on Google Classroom, and students click it and say there is nothing there. Okay, that sounds very strange, Colette. That wouldn't be what I'd expect. What I'd expect when someone shares a link on Google Classroom to an assignment is it would just take them through to that assignment. But what I can do is I can suggest, obviously I can't help you specifically just with the information you've given me there. But if you just get into contact with our customer support team, my colleague Olivia will be happy to help you. If you just send her some screenshots, she'll be able to support you and try and work out what's gone on and where the problem is. But you can get that if you just do the live chat if you log into your account, there'll just be a little live chat in the bottom corner, and you can just then have a chat with Olivia and discuss it with her. Okay, question from CWS says, if pupils have more than 80%, so they don't need to redo an assignment, if the reassignment is shared with the class on Teams, will the students see it? So what will happen is the students who aren't given that assignment, they'll just, when they click on that link, that's when actually there'll just be no assignment there for them. But yes, it will be shared with them. They will be able to see it unless you have a way of limiting who sees it. Question from Petit or Petite says, are there any ready-made guidance for parental sign up and use of Seneca? So yes, there are lots of resources on how to share this with parents, including templates for emails, letters, text messages, videos that you can send them. The way to find them is just to go onto our help pages and say, click invite parents, to search for invite parents to Seneca. You'll be able to find the resources there. Okay, David says, apologies, he joined late. He'd like to know if there is a way to easily set up pupils on Seneca. So yeah, the process is very straightforward. David, all you need to do is, if you just rewatch the beginning of this video on YouTube, you'll be able to see how to set it up. Okay, a question from CWS says, pupils previously, when they did an assignment, it would automatically lead them onto the next section, but not necessarily the next assignment. Has that changed? So yes, that changed about 6 to 9 months ago, CWS. So yes, that is now, now when a student completes an assignment, it will take them from one section you've set in the assignment onto the next one. Okay, so question from Simon is, some of the content is missing from AQA DT spec. Is it in the pipeline to create? So the content that's missing from the AQA DT spec is because, as I assume you're a DT teacher, Simon, it will, you have obviously options you can teach. And at the moment, we only cover some of the options. We covered the most popular ones, but I appreciate that may be something you don't teach in your school. So yes, it is in the pipeline. Again, I can't give you an exact date on that, I'm afraid, but it is something, again, we'd like to add to it in due course. Claire says, can we add Seneca to Teams ourselves, or do we need to ask admin or IT department? So it completely depends on the setup in your school. Me, as my user of Teams, I can add whatever I want, but I appreciate that might not be the case if your admin teams have locked it down. So you might just need to speak to your IT team. They might be able to add it blanket to all channels at once, which might make it a bit easier. But yeah, I don't know. It will depend on your individual setups, basically. Okay, that looks like I might have got to the end of the questions. If there are any more that you haven't had a chance to ask yet, or yeah, I haven't answered correctly, then please do pop them in the chat before I leave. But otherwise, thank you very much for joining. I appreciate that you're all very, very busy people, and thank you for taking the time out to listen to me rabbit on about Seneca and Teams and Classroom for the evening. But a couple of things to look out for is you'll get an email from me that will just give some links to some useful things to get you started. And also, if you want to watch this back, as I said, I will share this link to the YouTube channel, which I've just shared again. And you'll find lots of good resources on there as well. If you're getting started and you find you have some difficulty, as I mentioned earlier, please do just get in contact with my colleague Olivia, who will be available through the live chat on our website. So you'll just see when you've logged in a little button in the bottom corner to access live chat, and she'll be able to help you. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining, and I hope you have a really good evening. Thanks very much.